Hi, it's Katrina. Did you know that we know more about space than we do about our planet's oceans? Isn't that insane? Researchers and scientists continue to find things underwater that they can't quite explain, like mysterious holes, possible ancient cities, and glowing purple blobs. Today, I'll introduce you to some of these mysteries along with many others. So grab your scuba gear and let's go. Mysterious holes. Scientists exploring the depths of the Atlantic Ocean discovered something they couldn't explain. With their fancy equipment, high hopes, and a serious case of curiosity, they suddenly came across a series of holes neatly lined up on the ocean floor. They found these holes at a depth of 2,530 feet. But what on earth could have made them? Did some underwater landscapers forget their tools? Or are they the work of some secretive sea critter? Let's get one thing straight. The ocean is like the final frontier on Earth. We understand more about the moon than we do about the bottom of the ocean. It's a place where pressure can crush you like a bug, and it's cold and dark. Somehow, life finds a way to thrive. But these holes, they've got everyone completely baffled. So what do these holes look like? Imagine a line of small, neat holes, almost if someone took a hole puncher and went to town on the sea floor. The piles of sediment around them suggest that they were excavated by something. But what? During the Voyage to the Ridge 2022 expedition, marine researchers tried to get to the bottom of this mystery, literally. They took a closer look at the holes and still came up empty-handed. Frustrated but unwilling to give up, they turned to social media for help. They asked internet experts worldwide for their wildest hypotheses. Responses ranged from unknown crab species to gases escaping from the sea floor. One popular theory involves some kind of mysterious marine life. But get this, this isn't the first time these puzzling holes have been found. In July 2004, similar holes were spotted along the northern mid-Atlantic ridge at a depth of 6,831 feet. Scientists dubbed them Lebensspuren, which apparently is German for life traces. Sounds pretty fancy, right? But it basically means they were just as clueless back then as they are now. So why do these holes matter? Well, they highlight how much we still don't know about the mid-ocean ridge ecosystems. These ecosystems are crucial to our planet's health, and each new discovery helps us understand more about the life and processes that occur there. The holes are like nature's post-it notes, reminding us that there are still plenty of mysteries to solve. So what's next? Scientists will keep exploring and poking around to figure out what is making these holes. Whether they turn out to be gateways to deeper ocean secrets or just the handiwork of a sneaky sea creature, one thing's for sure, the ocean is full of surprises. The underwater city of Cuba. While on a joint Cuban-Canadian expedition in 2001, deep in the waters off the coast of Cuba, researchers picked up something mind-blowing on sonar. They found a city-like structure 2,300 feet below the surface. Some people have speculated that this might be the real-life Atlantis. But is there any truth to their claims? Listen to this, and then let me know what you think in the comments. One theory suggests that it was submerged by a massive tectonic event. Think of it like a giant earthquake that made the city sink. But hold your horse. Experts like Grenville Draper from Florida International University say that's pretty unlikely. According to him, we have never seen anything like that happen, not even in the Mediterranean, where things get pretty tectonically wild. But if the tectonic event theory doesn't hold water, pun intended, what's left? Could the city have been built underwater by some ancient aquatic architects? Unless ancient humans had gills, that theory is highly unlikely. I had you going there for a second there, didn't I? Unfortunately, we're stuck with the mystery of how this city ended up so deep. To make things even weirder, this isn't the only underwater city out there. Graham Hancock, in his book Underworld: The Mysterious Origins of Civilization, talks about many submerged structures around the world. But most of these are less than 394 feet, which makes sense since sea levels never dropped below that during human history. So what's up with the Cuban city being so much deeper? For a moment, let's entertain another wild theory. What if long ago the Caribbean Sea wasn't a sea at all, but a dry basin? Picture it, a vast expanse of land where now there is only water. Could the Caribbean Sea have been a dry, habitable area during the time of modern humans? If so, ancient people could have built cities there, which later got submerged when the sea formed. The Mediterranean Sea has a similar story. Classical authors like Aristotle, Galileo, and Pliny the Elder describe the birth of the Mediterranean Sea as an enormous flood that came through the Strait of Gibraltar that filled in a dried-out basin. And if it happened there, could it have happened in the Caribbean too? For the Caribbean basin to have been dry, two things needed to happen. First, there had to be a land bridge connecting all the islands, making it a continuous landmass. Second, the region would need to have more evaporation than precipitation, keeping it dry. Today, the Caribbean region does have more evaporation, and it's likely been that way for a long time. So imagine a scenario where the Caribbean was isolated and dry. An earthquake or erosion event could have caused parts of this land bridge to collapse, allowing water from the Atlantic Ocean to rush in and fill the basin. Over time, this would carve deep channels, making the Caribbean Sea as deep as it is today. Now here's a cool twist. The Taino Indians, native to the Caribbean, have a myth about how the sea began. They talk about a great flood that covered their land, which could be a metaphor for this very event. Their land was described as a gourd, which was often dried and used as a container, kind of like a basin. Could this myth be an actual memory of a real event where the Caribbean basin was dry and then flooded? If so, this could explain how a city ended up 2,300 feet underwater. But this, of course, leads to more questions. Are there more sunken cities waiting to be discovered in the Caribbean? Perhaps. Or perhaps this discovery isn't even a real city at all. And now for number 10, but first, it's shout-out time! I want to give a big thank you to Johnny and Matthew Boylan for supporting this channel. Love you guys! If you're new here, be sure to subscribe to join the Origins Explained family. Metal spheres. What happens when a Harvard astrophysicist decides to go on a deep-sea treasure hunt? Well, you get a quest for alien artifacts at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, of course. Let's dive into the story of Avi Loeb and his team's mission to uncover what could be the universe's oldest piece of cosmic bling. Who is Avi Loeb? Picture a guy in a lab coat with an Indiana Jones hat, minus the whip. Loeb is an astrophysicist from Harvard University who has been chasing down clues about a mysterious meteor that crashed into the Pacific. Was it just another rock from space? Or was it an alien artifact from a galaxy far, far away? The adventure kicked off in June of 2023 near Papua New Guinea. Loeb and his crew, backed by $1.5 million from entrepreneur Charles Hoskinson, embarked on the research vessel Silver Star. Their mission? To find pieces of a meteor labeled IM-1, which crash-landed in our atmosphere in 2014. It wasn't until 2019 that Loeb and his student Amir Siraj stumbled upon some government data hinting at its extrasolar origin. In 2022, the U.S. Space Command confirmed this, and Loeb was off to the races. So what did they find? Over 700 tiny metal spheres. Now you might think, why is everyone getting so excited over some microscopic balls of metal? These aren't just any metal balls. Preliminary tests suggest that they might be alien artifacts, since they have a composition that is out of this world, literally. Loeb explained in his blog that this discovery is historic because it is the first time that humans have held materials from a large object that came from outside our solar system. Think about it. These little metal bits have traveled farther than any astronaut or Voyager probe. But why is Loeb so convinced these are alien artifacts? For one, the metal spheres have a unique elemental makeup dubbed Belau because of their beryllium, lanthanum, and uranium content. This combination is not something you find in your average meteorite. Was this Loeb's first rodeo with potential alien artifacts? Nope. Back in 2017, he proposed that the Oumuamua comet might be an alien spacecraft using solar energy as a light sail. While that idea got a lot of side-eye from the scientific community, it didn't stop Loeb from keeping his eyes on the stars and the ocean floor. The hunt for IM-1 involved using a magnet-equipped sled to comb the ocean floor. This thing was like the world's biggest and geekiest metal detector, and the team's persistence paid off, leading to the collection of these intriguing spheres. Analysis of these materials is ongoing at various top-tier institutions, including Harvard and UC Berkeley. And Lowe plans to do more treasure hunting. He and his colleagues intend to return to the depths of the Pacific, hoping to find more clues about our interstellar visitors. Interdimensional alien base. There is a city in Mexico that's supposedly protected from hurricanes by an interdimensional base run by aliens. Welcome to Ciudad Madero, where a group of UFO enthusiasts have spread this hard-to-believe rumor. So, who are these stargazers? They belong to the Association of Scientific UFO Research of Tamaulipas, and they are 100% convinced that an underwater alien base named Amupac has shielded their coastal city from hurricanes for over 50 years. Their leader, Juan Carlos Ramon Lopez Diaz, claims that he's even visited this base through astral projection. Yep, that's right, astral projection, just like Doctor Strange. Well, not exactly. Lopez Diaz supposedly does this through deep meditation and by maintaining a pescatarian diet. But what exactly is this Amupac base doing to stop hurricanes? According to Lopez Diaz, it's not the base itself, but the collective belief in its power that generates a force field repelling storms. Think of it as a giant cosmic umbrella powered by sheer faith and a few strategically placed metal bars in the seabed. So why haven't hurricanes hit Ciudad Madero directly since 1966? Climate scientists like Dr. Rosario Romero have a more down-to-earth answer than Lopez Diaz's explanation. She points to broader atmospheric conditions and prevailing winds that push major hurricanes north toward the US rather than south to Mexico. But even she admits that the weather patterns here are curious. Despite the science, many locals prefer the mystical explanation. Some believe the aliens protect their base and the city just gets lucky. Others find solace in faith, like the devout Catholics who trust in Our Lady of Mount Carmel. But to make things even more quirky, in 2013, the city installed a bust of a green Martian at Miramar Beach and declared the last Tuesday in October as the Day of the Martian. Sadly, though, the bust was stolen, likely by someone looking for a unique garden gnome to protect their crops. Whether you believe in alien gardens, mystical force fields, or just good old-fashioned atmospheric science, Ciudad Madero's hurricane-free streak is one for the books. And as hurricane season rolls in, a mix of practical preparations and a bit of extraterrestrial hope might just keep this city safe one more year. Let me know if you believe in this so-called alien base in the comments. Invisible whirlpools. Getting sucked into a giant invisible underwater whirlpool while swimming in the ocean just made its way onto my long list of fears. It sounds like something that might only happen in a sci-fi movie, but these underwater eddies, as they are also called, are very real, and they are as fascinating as they are dangerous. Let's start with the basics. What causes these whirlpools? Tidal currents, which are powerful flows of water created by the gravitational pull of the moon and the sun, can produce giant eddies. Famous ones like the Maelstrom off the Norwegian coast have been known for centuries and are notorious for being shipping hazards. These whirlpools are so powerful that they've inspired legends like the Kraken. You know, the mythical sea monster said to drag ships down to their doom. But here's where things get really scary. Not all whirlpools are visible from the surface. Some are deep underwater and can be even more dangerous because you can't see them. These are called deep eddies, and they form when the ocean currents flow around underwater features like seamounts. Seamounts are basically submerged mountains. They don't bother surface ships, but they can wreak havoc on submarines. For example, in 2014, a Chinese submarine named Submarine 372 had a terrifying experience with one of these deep eddies. The crew was cruising along when suddenly it was as if they fell into an abyss. The submarine started plunging into an ocean trench unexpectedly, causing a pressure pipe to burst and water to flood in. Thankfully, the quick-thinking crew managed to seal the valves and release gas to increase buoyancy, and this saved the sub from being crushed by the immense pressure. Since this near disaster, researchers from the Guangzhou Institute of Oceanology have been on a mission to map these underwater whirlpools in the trough. This is an abyssal part of the ocean off Hainan. By identifying these deep eddies, they hope to protect submarines and also learn more about how water and sediment mix in the deep oceans. Zakinthos Structures. Near the island of Zakinthos in Greece, divers thought they discovered an ancient city with floors and courtyards and columns, but spoiler alert, they didn't. Instead, they found some seriously funky geological formations. I'm sure you're wondering, what exactly did these underwater ruins look like? Some looked like pipes, some like discs, and others were donut-shaped. But they are not the remnants of an ancient civilization, at least according to mainstream scientists. To them, they are actually the result of a natural phenomenon from the Pliocene epoch, which was up to 5 million years ago. But if these structures are just natural formations, how were they ever mistaken as remnants of a lost civilization? This site was first discovered by snorkelers who thought they had found an ancient city port. There were what looked like circular column bases and paved floors. But unfortunately, there were no signs of ancient life like pottery or tools. And that's when things got fishy for researchers. Or rather, not fishy enough. Archaeologists from the Greek Ministry of Culture's Effort of Underwater Antiquities teamed up with scientists from the University of East Anglia and the University of Athens. They wanted to get to the bottom of the mystery once and for all. Using fancy techniques like microscopy, X-rays, and chemical analysis, the team studied the mineral content of these weird formations. And guess what they found? These so-called ruins were actually fossilized remains of an ancient plumbing system beneath the seafloor, one not built by human hands. They were natural pipes for methane and other hydrocarbons escaping into the water. Over time, microbes in the sediment used the methane as fuel and formed a natural cement around the structures. This process is known to geologists as concretion. Then, the resulting structures exposed by erosion got a makeover from modern marine organisms. So, what looked like an ancient city was really just a bunch of natural donuts and pipes created by Mother Nature herself. Talk about a plot twist. The study's main researcher, Julian Andrews, said the formations look like those that are usually created by underwater gas leaks. These are typically found in much deeper water though, making this discovery near Zakinthos quite rare. So, no ancient city, but a cool geological phenomenon instead. It was like nature was playing a prank. Baltic Sea Megastructure. Imagine diving into the deep blue Baltic Sea expecting to find nothing but fish and seaweed, but instead you discover something extraordinary, a massive structure from the Stone Age. That's exactly what happened for researchers in 2021. It was like finding a time capsule from 11,000 years ago, revealing secrets about ancient humans. Researchers from Kiel University in Germany made the astonishing discovery. In the Bay of Mecklenburg, off the coast of Rerich, they uncovered a row of stones at a depth of 69 feet. And this wasn't just a random pile of rocks. It was a meticulously arranged wall made of 1,670 stones stretching over half a mile. This thing is like an underwater Great Wall of China, but a lot shorter, and built by ancient hunters. Apparently, back then, hunters were also skilled architects. So what's the big deal with this wall? Dr. Jacob Geerson and his team believe it was used for hunting reindeer. They weren't just good for pulling Santa's sleigh, they were also a major food source for these ancient people. The wall likely guided reindeer into a narrow area or even into a lake, making them easy targets for Stone Age hunters. It was like the ultimate prehistoric fast food joint, offering a reindeer drive-thru. But uncovering the purpose of an underwater structure isn't as simple as saying, oh look, a wall. Researchers had to collect sediment samples, create a 3D model of the wall, and reconstruct what the landscape looked like back then. It turns out, after the last ice age, rising sea levels flooded the area. This submerged what used to be dry land and transformed it into the Baltic Sea we know today. This discovery suggests that hunter-gatherers were more settled than previously thought. Dr. Marcel Bradmuller pointed out that building such a massive structure implies that these groups were pretty territorial. They weren't just wandering around, they had a specific area they cared about and invested time and effort into building complex hunting traps. This is the first Stone Age hunting structure found in the Baltic Sea, but similar setups have been found around the world. In Lake Huron, Michigan, archaeologists found stone walls used to hunt caribou. These ancient people were super smart, using their environment to catch dinner long before anyone ever heard of takeout. Bobus Puris. What would you do if you found a mysterious glowing purple blob with a high-tech underwater vehicle? Researchers had to ask themselves that question when they discovered that same thing exploring the deep waters around the Channel Islands. A team aboard the research vessel EV Nautilus were responsible for the discovery. But what exactly did they find? Listen to this and let me know what you think in the comments below. Was it an alien egg? A disco ball for fish parties? The scientists had no clue, but they were determined to find out. Using the suction arm of their underwater robot, they grabbed the mysterious orb for a closer look. And upon examination, they noticed that the blob had two distinct lobes. This led to some early guesses. One theory is that this strange purple thing is a type of sea slug, possibly a nudibranch. Nudibranches are marine mollusks known for their bright colors and lack of shells. They are like the show-offs of the sea, flaunting their flashy looks, while other sea creatures stick to shells and camouflage. But here's where the discovery gets even more exciting. This blob could be a creature no human has ever seen before. It's not every day you discover a mysterious purple who knows what floating in the ocean. The scientists are eager to find out if this is a new species, but that process could take years. Science, after all, is all about patience and thorough investigation. So why does it matter what this thing is? Discovering new species helps us understand the diversity of life in our oceans and can even give us insights into the health of marine ecosystems. Plus, finding new creatures is just plain cool. Imagine telling your friends that you discovered a new type of sea slug that looks like a glow-in-the-dark gummy bear. Instant bragging rights. For now, scientists are calling this thing Bobus Puris, and you know what? It couldn't have a more fitting name. Underwater crop circles. In 1995, deep-sea divers off Japan stumbled upon a mesmerizing sight. Intricate circular patterns on the ocean floor. They kind of looked like underwater crop circles. These formations baffled scientists for years until the unlikely creators were finally unveiled. Small pufferfish, previously unknown to science. These pint-sized artists are only about 5 inches long. These tiny fish are just looking for love. Imagine a tiny pufferfish flapping its fins like a mad artist, swirling up sediment in a carefully choreographed dance. The result? Circles up to 6.5 feet wide, about the height of a basketball hoop. After the males finish their aquatic masterpiece, females swim by to inspect the finished product. If they approve, they lay their eggs in the center of the circle while the males fertilize them externally. No dinner and a movie needed underwater. Once the deed is done, the females disappear, leaving the males to stand guard over their precious eggs for the next week or so. The pufferfish dads protect the family home. Interestingly, these pufferfish circles aren't just pretty, they serve a practical purpose too. The patterns are designed in a way that funnels water and fine sediments toward the center, creating a calm, cozy spot for egg laying. It's like nature's version of a cozy nest, complete with built-in egg protection from turbulent currents. These circles aren't just a quirky hobby for pufferfish. They are a biological marvel, similar to how birds build elaborate nests to attract mates. It's all about showing off. I mean, demonstrating survival skills in the animal kingdom. And scientists love this discovery because it's a rare example where biology gives a clear answer to a long-standing mystery. You're welcome. The 17th century cauldron. What if I told you that a mysterious copper dome found at the bottom of the ocean might be one of the world's first submarines? No, this isn't a plot twist from a sci-fi movie. This real-life mystery started in 1980 when divers recovered a copper dome near the wreck of the Santa Margarita, a Spanish treasure galleon that sank in 1622 near Florida. Initially, everyone thought this big round object was an oversized cooking cauldron. It's been sitting at the Mel Fisher Museum in Florida for decades. But guess what? New research suggests that this cauldron might actually be the top of a 17th century diving bell. A diving bell is a kind of submarine used for underwater exploration. Imagine a large upside-down cup that traps air and allows divers to breathe while they're underwater. Remember in Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl? Well, there's a scene in that movie where Captain Jack Sparrow and Will Turner use an upturned rowboat to trap air and allow them to breathe as they walk along the sea floor. Same concept, but slightly different. According to maritime archaeologists Sean Kingsley and Jim Sinclair, members of the original team that found the dome, the object's size and shape fit the description of these early submarines. It's way too big for cooking and has no signs of charring or heating. Instead, it's made from 2 copper sheets and has a heavy rim with copper rivets all around it. Now here's where things get really interesting. The dome was found near a bunch of iron ingots, which researchers think were used to anchor the diving bell to the sea floor. Plus, the Spanish were known to be early pioneers in using diving bells. A Spaniard named Francisco Núñez Melian even wrote about casting a diving bell in 1625. Could this mysterious dome be what's left of Melian's diving bell? Sinclair and Kingsley think so. They believe the dome was the top part of a diving bell, with the lower parts made of wood and leather, which have since decayed. This diving bell could have been big enough for 3 divers and might have been connected to an air hose. Why is this important? Well, if the Santa Margarita salvage in the 17th century was so successful, recovering 350 silver ingots, thousands of gold coins, and 8 cannons, maybe they used this diving bell to get the treasure. The Mariana Trench virus. Deep in the depths of the Mariana Trench, where even James Cameron might hesitate to explore, scientists have discovered something mind-boggling. A virus so deep, it's the Mariana Trench of viruses. Meet VB-HMY-H4907, the virus that is making waves, or rather sinking quietly at a depth of around 29,000 feet. This virus isn't your average cold bug. It's a bacteriophage, which means it infects bacteria by hijacking their cellular machinery to make more copies of itself. Think of it like a microscopic vampire, but instead of blood, it craves bacteria. Scientists believe this virus has adapted to survive in extreme environments where it's so deep, even the fish need scuba gear. And what's even weirder and cooler is how it infects its host bacteria. Unlike most viruses that go for the kill, this one plays it sneaky. It sneaks its genetic material into the bacterial genome and quietly replicates itself without causing immediate harm. It's like a house guest who moves in and starts redecorating without you noticing. Except in this case, the house is a bacteria and the guest is a virus. But why should we care about viruses at the bottom of the ocean? For one, they are like tiny astronauts exploring Earth's final frontier. They give us clues about how life survives in places where sunlight never reaches and pressure is higher than your stress levels. Scientists are pretty excited about this discovery because it's only the 3rd virus known to infect a deep-sea bacteria called Halomonas. In the future, scientists want to uncover more about these mysterious viruses and how they interact with their bacterial buddies. Hopefully, researchers don't bring up anything too creepy that can cause another disaster like 2020. Ancient weapons chest. In the murky depths off southern Sweden lies a treasure chest of history. Divers stumbled upon the wreck of the Gribsjunden, a 15th century Danish warship. The vessel sank in 1495 after a fiery mishap involving gunpowder. Inside this sunken time capsule, archaeologists discovered something straight out of a pirate movie. A chest brimming with tools for making lead bullets for early handguns. Think of it as a medieval ammunition DIY kit, complete with molds for bullets and canisters for gunpowder. But why is this chest such a big deal? It gives us a peek into a pivotal moment in naval warfare history. Before the age of blasting enemies from afar with cannons, ships mostly duked it out like knights in armor, ramming each other and throwing shade and swords in close combat. The Gribsjunden's arsenal, however, hints at a shift towards more modern tactics involving firearms. A trend that wouldn't fully catch wind until a century later. Rolf Warming, one of the marine archaeologists behind this discovery, geeked out over the find. Using fancy tech like photogrammetry to create a 3D model of the chest, they have pieced together its contents and speculated about its origins. Turns out, it likely belonged to a rowdy bunch of German-speaking mercenaries sailing under the Danish king's flag. They were likely planning to press Sweden into rejoining the Kalmar Union, a medieval Scandinavian Avengers team, when things went boom. The wreck also yielded other relics like chainmail armor and combat platforms strategically built into the ship's hull. The ancient version of rooftop snipers, perhaps? These platforms, according to Warming, are where terms like forecastle, for you ship lingo aficionados, likely began. Thanks for watching! Be sure to hit that subscribe button and stick around for an older video you might have missed.
The sunken city. Researchers discovered a strange group of pyramid-like structures off the coast of Cuba. These structures were found at the bottom of the ocean, identified using sonar equipment. They appear to be megaliths, things that would normally be found at a site on land like Stonehenge or Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. These structures are roughly 1,200 feet long and 120 feet high. They've been estimated at 6,000 years old. They don't look like anything ever found in Cuba and are more reminiscent of the pyramids and temples in Belize or Mexico. This discovery should have been international news when it was made just a couple of years ago, but ever since it was first mentioned, it hasn't come up again. There is much debate as to whether this find was even real, even though the structures look very clear. No teams have gone underwater to check out the mysterious sunken city, and no mainstream archaeologists will even talk about it. This has led some to speculate that the ancient city could change history, and that for some reason, the discovery is being suppressed. On the other hand, it could be nothing more than natural geological formations. They certainly look like pyramids, temples, and other buildings, but there is a chance they are just rocks, and their shapes are coincidental. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. The USS Jacob Jones. In 2022, divers uncovered the USS Jacob Jones, a U.S. Navy destroyer which was annihilated by an enemy submarine over 100 years ago in 1917. It's famous for being the first American destroyer ever lost in combat. It was divers from the British Sub-Aqua Club who uncovered its remains while searching for mysterious wrecks along the coastline of the UK. The USS Jacob Jones had originally been hit by a German torpedo during World War I. It was an early prototype for the destroyer class, which is currently the backbone of the U.S. Navy. The wreckage was found 40 miles from the southwest tip of the UK, submerged 377 feet underwater. But before it was destroyed, the ship was a force to be reckoned with. It had 4 4-inch guns, 8 533mm torpedo tubes, and a pair of steam turbines delivering 17,000 shaft horsepower. After America entered into World War I, the USS Jacob Jones was given convoy duty. Its main task was to deliver troops and supplies from North America to Europe to fight against the Germans. During her brief career, she rescued hundreds of Allied merchantmen who had been left stranded by enemy activity. But then, on the night of December 6, 1917, she was hit by a torpedo. 64 crew members died, and the ship was lost until just recently. Dino Track. Texas is historically hot and dry. Amid the great drought happening right now, the Paluxy River in the Dinosaur Valley State Park has lost most of its water. The river dried up completely in some locations. But according to the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, the vanishing water revealed prehistoric dinosaur tracks from 113 million years ago. Under normal conditions, the tracks would have been totally submerged and filled with mucky sediment. Nobody ever would have found them. But now that the river is dry and the sediment has blown away in the wind, the tracks have been revealed as if they were left only yesterday. Paleontologists say the dinosaur footprints were left behind by an Acrocanthosaurus. This was a beastly carnivore that stood 15 feet tall and weighed roughly 7 tons. It was one of the most terrifying dinosaurs to ever roam prehistoric Texas, feasting on anything that moved. It's shout-out time! Want to say a big thank you to Robert Nolan and Crohn's Warrior for supporting this channel. If you are new here, welcome, and be sure to subscribe to join the Origins Explained family. The world's deepest shipwreck. The deepest shipwreck in the world has just been found in an impossible depth in the Philippines. The ship is a U.S. destroyer that sank in World War II. It was found at a dizzying depth of 4 miles below the surface, or approximately 22,916 feet. That's a little over half as deep as the Mariana Trench. To give you an idea of just how insanely deep the ship was, only about 2% of the oceans are deeper than 23,000 feet. This ship is called the USS Samuel B. Roberts, or Sammy B for short. The Navy confirmed its discovery in a statement in June of 2022, although it was a company from the UK that made the discovery. Former naval commander Victor Vescovo and the team with EOS Expeditions found the ship broken in half at the bottom of the ocean. Sammy B was commissioned in 1944 and sunk the same year by Japanese naval forces during the brutal Battle of Samar. The American naval force was heavily outnumbered by the Japanese, and yet they successfully defended against a major attack. The Sammy B even damaged the superior Japanese fleet, which consisted of 4 huge battleships, 6 heavy cruisers, 11 destroyers, and the most heavily armed battleship ever constructed, the Yamato. But although the Sammy B fought bravely, it took a hard hit from the Yamato and went down, taking 89 brave soldiers with it. The 120 soldiers who survived were forced to cling to scraps of the wreckage for nearly 50 hours before they were rescued. Huge hydrothermal vents. Deep in the Pacific Ocean, scientists have discovered a series of hydrothermal vents. These vents are positively huge, covering an area about the size of a football field. They look like craggy underwater chimneys, rocky towers about 40 feet tall each. To make them even more chimney-like, the hydrothermal vents spew out black, smoky water that can reach temperatures of up to 694 degrees Fahrenheit. That water is so hot it would burn the flesh right off your bones. You wouldn't even be able to get near this thing because it would be like standing in the mouth of a volcano when it erupted. Scientists believe the water is even hotter inside the vent, possibly 818 degrees Fahrenheit, before it shoots out of the formation. But it's not the hydrothermal vents themselves that are so scary. Researchers from the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute in Massachusetts say the extremely hot temperature of the water suggests something terrifying. A volcanic eruption could be on the horizon, probably in the next few years. The newly discovered field of hydrothermal vents is about 200 miles from the coast of Mexico in the Pacific Ocean. The field is also part of the East Pacific Rise, a group of potentially world-destroying volcanoes extending from California to Antarctica. The vents are so hot, it suggests that something deep beneath the ground is happening, perhaps an accumulation of energy that will lead to a biblical-sized volcanic eruption. If this chain of volcanoes starts going off, it could, theoretically, bring about the end of humanity. The head of Hercules. Archaeologists have just discovered the head of Hercules. It wasn't a real human skull, but a stone head that belonged to a statue of one of history's most famous mythical heroes. It was discovered in a Roman shipwreck that sank near the Greek island Antikythera, located in the southern Aegean Sea. It went down in the first part of the 1st century BC. But this was hardly the first discovery made at the site. This shipwreck was initially found 100 years ago. Researchers have already brought an unbelievable wealth of treasure to the surface, but it was only recently that researchers began finding even more artifacts. They realized that an earthquake had occurred sometime after the ship sank, causing huge boulders to tumble onto the wreckage. Only once a team started removing the boulders did they find even more treasure. They had to use underwater lifting equipment, pressurized airbags, and all the ingenuity they had to move the boulders. Some of them weighed nearly 10 tons. But with the huge rocks removed, they found more artifacts, the most stunning being Hercules' preserved marble head, the gummy squirrel. A strange creature was recently found down in the depths of a deep-sea abyss. Researchers are calling it a gummy squirrel, and they say it looks like a moldy, half-peeled banana. Scientists with the Natural History Museum in London found a menagerie of bizarre marine life in the Pacific Ocean. Among their discoveries were dozens of creatures that might be species totally unknown to science. In the summer of 2018, a remotely operated vehicle was sent to search through an abyss 16,400 feet beneath the surface. The abyss is located somewhere between Hawaii and Mexico and contains all manner of odd monsters. The team managed to recover 55 specimens, with 39 of them appearing to be totally new species. According to biologist Guadalupe Bribiesca Contreras, the last group to explore the area was 150 years ago on the HMS Challenger. Since then, this part of the ocean has barely been touched. It's no surprise they found so many wacky new animals. The so-called gummy squirrel appears to be a type of sea cucumber shaped like a banana. It was nearly 2 feet long, about the size of a child's arm. They also found a new kind of sea sponge that looks exactly like an underwater tulip. Unfortunately, the team didn't find any gigantic monsters, no new species of shark or terrifying fish with fangs. But this is a dark and mysterious part of the ocean, a place so deep there is no light and very little nutrition. It's possible that with additional expeditions, researchers will find even more bizarre creatures. Spanish Stonehenge. In summer of 2022, a severe drought revealed something unbelievable in Spain. In 1963, the prehistoric site of what archaeologists nicknamed the Spanish Stonehenge was flooded. The government needed to create a new reservoir as part of a civil engineering project. And so, one of the most impressive archaeological marvels in all of Spain was flooded and gone. It remained submerged until now. The site was originally found in 1926 by the German archaeologist Hugo Obermeier. He was able to help identify the prehistoric circle as being 7,000 years old. It's an ancient megalith even older than Stonehenge, consisting of 100 standing stones. Nobody knows if the monument was used for ritualistic activity, if it was an extravagant tomb for a prehistoric chief, or if it was built to commemorate some great event. What we do know is that Europe is in its worst drought in 500 years, and the reservoir is nearly empty. With the water gone, the monument has been revealed once again. Sadly, the prehistoric site has taken a beating by being underwater for so long. Most of these stones have fallen over and shattered, and once the water in the reservoir rises again and the stones are submerged once more, it will probably be damaged even further. Ancient Greek shipwreck. Researchers with the European Institute for Underwater Archaeology recently announced the discovery of a shipwreck filled to the brim with treasure from the Ptolemaic era over 2,000 years ago. It was found in the Bay of Abu Qir, off the coast of Alexandria in Egypt. It's believed that the ship likely sank after it was hit by giant blocks of stone when the Temple of Amun was destroyed. Frank Gaudio, the president of the IEASM, says the temple was ruined during a major natural disaster in the 2nd century BC. As the temple crumbled to pieces, one of those pieces fell onto the ship, which had been moored in a canal right beside it. The ship then sank, was covered in blocks of rubble, and remained hidden for about 2,200 years. The blocks pinned the wreck to the bottom of the canal, and it was slowly covered over by about 15 feet of sediment. The Greek shipwreck isn't the only thing sitting at the bottom of the Bay of Abu Qir. The bay was once the home of a great port city named Heraklion. Researchers believe this was the very city where Cleopatra had her temple in the days before Egypt was taken over by the Romans. Something happened in the 2nd century, perhaps a tsunami caused by an earthquake. Whatever it was, the entire city of Heraklion tumbled into the water. Ships, temples, and city streets were suddenly submerged. Thanks for watching! Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already and come back soon for more amazing discoveries. See you later. Bye!